You're very welcome this evening on our new session of API Community Belgium together with archers from the Meetup-group on from transactional to conversational, how APIs are redefining a native paper into a digital first follower. So maybe first a quick word on API Community Belgium. I'm not going to read everything, I'm pretty sure you can also read our vision and mission statements. But if I have to in a nutshell explain what we do, we want to bring people together, API and integration specialists, to exchange knowledge, experiences, and also do the networking among each other. Yeah, no, again, we made some slides, but I'm not going to really use them. We're already active for 3 years now. We started at the beginning with the pandemic. We did all kinds of virtual meetups. Since April this year, we also really want to start doing again physical meetups to really bring each other in person together, because that's just a better way of networking. Today we're here together with archers. It's already our 4th real meetup, so we are very happy we see this big audience today. How can you reach us? For those who wouldn't yet know it, so you have our website, apicommunity.be. We also have a meetup page, meet.apicommunity.be, our LinkedIn page, and also our YouTube page, watch.apicommunity.be, where you can basically find all the recordings of our past sessions. These are the volunteers making it possible. So that's the people behind us. Our partners who make it financially possible. We're bringing it together today. It's also in collaboration with archers, so thank you, archers. And I will give the word to you and Matthias. I will not explain themselves because I think they're much better at presenting themselves than I would be able to do so. So, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Matthias Scheerder. I'm managing partner for Archers, and together with Wim, who's at the back of the room. Next to that, maybe more importantly for today, I'm an integration architect, which means that my personal goal, but then also the goal that Archer has, is to support customers with their integration challenges. So we come from the integration architecture, integration analysis point of view. And that's also how we are standing here today, because Jo is from Symeta Hybrid. He's one of our customers, and we would want to support him in attaining his vision, his goals. I'm going to leave the word to you now.
Yes. So first of all, I'm really excited to be here. It's my first public appearance, I think, since 7 years. So I'm looking forward to it. So my name is Jo Martens, and I'm a sailor. Those of you who like comics, it's Colruyt. It's one of the very famous from Hugo Pratt. So I'm a sailor. Besides being a sailor, I currently work in a role as CTO of Symeta Hybrid, and the T stands more for transformation than for technology. Technology is always about me. So you will hear me talking about technology, but always as a meme. And the transformation part that was in the title already, I will explain the title later, is more important. So I have a background in 2005 we launched a company in Antwerp, Rambla. It was an audio and video streaming services company, and we had at those days public APIs. If you look at the programmable web, the curve now it's like, I don't know, 40,000, 50,000 public APIs that are available worldwide. In those days, 2005, there were only like maybe 200. And of these 200s, we had quite a lot of open APIs to start a live stream, to encode, to transcode, to subtitle, to a lot of stuff. So in those days, I still had to explain what is streaming, and I had to explain what is an API. So that's my background. After that, I went to NASCOM. I'm picking this line because I think it's important for the story to give you something of my background. NASCOM was in those days, let's call it a digital agency, where we had a mix of people. One of those people is here, Wouter. He is one of my colleagues in those days. That's also where I got to know Hikke, sitting next to Wouter. And what we did was, we had like, on one hand, technical people, developers. Those were the days of web, early web. And we had like design, UX, service design, architecture. So it was like a hybrid beast. And we worked for mainly large corporations, and one of them was Colruyt Group in those days. And we made in those days the first, it was Wouter who designed it, and you sold it. So
And I was even working for you.
it was like a web-to-print application, where you can on a web order and virtually let it print and have it delivered. So that was it's like more than 10 years ago now, I think. Okay, long introduction. So that's me. Very important for the session and to get it a little bit interactive as well. As you see here, I wrote something down, Q&A. If you have questions, just shout out loud. If you're capable of answering, we will do it. If not, or if the answer is too long, we will write it down and we'll pick it up at the end of the session to keep the momentum in the presentation, because we have some slides also, we have some storyline. And now we'll see which way I have to do this. Okay, so Colruyt Group. A lot of brands. I work as a freelance consultant now for the past 7 years in Colruyt Group. I've encountered most of these brands. One of these brands is Symeta Hybrid. Most of you will not know us. Who does know us? Besides Wouter? Yeah, no. So okay, some crazy people who used to work for Colruyt Group are this is taped. Yeah, okay. So some people who did some very good work for Colruyt Group. So Symeta Hybrid is a brand, and I work there as a CTO now. It's a merger. So you have Symeta, which was like, that's the line of Symeta, the bird line and the lifeline. And then you had Jos Hybrid, which is located in Heverlee. Symeta is located in Sint-Pietersleeuw. And together they formed Symeta Hybrid. What do we do? Screensaver? Yeah. Waiting for others to join. So basically what we do is we're active. If you look back at the title, and the title says like we move from transactional to conversational. How APIs are redefining a native paper player. That's what we are, a native paper player. I even got business cards recently also. After 7 years, I brought them with me. I'm really happy because we still believe in paper. As you all know, Corona has brought screen fatigue and digital fatigue. So paper is getting more and more important again also. So it's not a sales pitch, but paper is important. What do we do in print? We work basically in two fields. We'll skip to the next one. This you may have had in your hands or not, or throw it away. That's also possible. This is the Colruyt laagste prijzen folder, so the brochure you get with based on your buying behavior. And so it's digital print, so it's not offset print. So based on your buying behavior, you get different promos, different products are presented and printed. So I think 2.4 million of these brochures leave every 2 weeks. That's one of the things we do. This case, I think, was for a very long time one of the most innovative. And if you combine the two sites, like Sint-Pietersleeuw and the one in Heverlee, I think it's one of the biggest producers in So that's one thing. Another thing, it's anonymized, you don't see it. This is printed in Scheerder. These are like invoices. So we're active in two fields. One is direct marketing, brochures, POS material, birthday cards, leaflets, whatever you can think of. And also the digital channels. And the other one is transactional communication. Transactional communication means an invoice, a payment slip, an insurance policy, all validated documents, outgoing mainly, documents from all the big reference that I mentioned before. So very high volume, very process driven. Zero tolerance for mistakes. Zero. You don't want your payslip to end up with your colleague, and you don't want to get the invoice from someone else. You don't want to mix things up. So the very process driven, very quality driven, all the ISO certification stuff is really crucial. So that's basically the background. For example, I'm going to the next one already. In the direct marketing, we work mainly, just to give you the context, for all the brands that I mentioned before. So the internal Colruyt group brands. For transactional communication, it's mainly for the external, what we call the external market. So for example, Telenet, KVC Securities, Proximus, a lot of customers. Most hospitals, 6 out of 10 hospitals in Belgium, if you get an invoice, chances are very large that it comes through us. It can also be digital. So basically, I will now take you on a trip. I will look at the time. I'll take you on a trip on how we came to define our strategy and how we came to define, okay, how will we tackle it. And the technical part will be dealt with by Matthias. I'll guide you through the strategic choices and decisions that we make. First of all, architecture is to realize strategy. So an architecture, it can be an architecture for a building or an architecture for a city or an architecture for software or whatever. It's always to realize strategy. So an architecture always is also a mental model. And now I see someone smiling because a mental model is the thing that determines how you interact with it. For example, I have a mental, I go off screen, it's okay. I have a mental model of a door. I know how doors work. Although I've never touched this door, I know how it works. So it's represented. I know by the position of the clink handle, how it will open, everything. So it's a mental model. Without mental models, we cannot act. Simply cannot act. We cannot make any decision. You're screwed. So we always have a mental model. So mental models are essential tools allowing us to navigate through life. And then comes the question. As you can see, this is a windmill, a huge windmill. In which way is the weekend?
The fence.
Blades, yes, the blades. In which way are the blades turning?
Counterclockwise.
Counterclockwise, clockwise.
Depends on the angle.
Yes. It depends on how the angle. I said to you, I'm a sailor. It creates lift. Depends on the angle, on how you position it. So basically, it's arbitrary. You can decide it. Some people say, it depends from which direction the wind blows. Trust me, some people do say that. If you give us that answer, then you don't know how it works. If you don't know how it works, it's really difficult to interact with it. Why am I saying this? Because this is the whole thing of mental models and paradigms. We are a native paper player. We are process-driven. We are batch-driven. We are a lot of stuff that is the dominant paradigm of how we look at transactional communication and how we look at direct marketing. Yet, the world is changing with different technology, different paradigms, so you have people who are really lost. That's why I also call myself a transformation, chief transformation officer and not technology officer, because you need to guide people from A to B. It's not that easy. So, definition, how you interact with the technology and organization, is always a function of your mental model of that technology and organization. So you can you cannot say like it's a wrong mental model, but it's a different mental model. And so we all make mental models. There is no wrong or right, but they're different. So take you through why do we have platforms and ecosystems? Because if I refer to at this moment, what we do now, we are already using lots of channels to send, for example, invoices. It can be digital, like an email. It can be an SMS with a payment link. It can be paper. It can be paper with a QR code where you scan and then you pay. It can be delivered into the e-box, can be delivered into Doggle, can be multiple channels. So basically, you could already call this like a platform. But why do we have platforms and ecosystems in the world? Basically, the most known are like, the ecosystem is Amazon, while platforms are more like supply, demand. They have like one side and another side. Uber, Airbnb, eBay, while Amazon is going differently. Amazon and actually Colruyt Group is doing exactly the same. All retailers are doing the same. They know a lot about buying behavior and they come up with their own services and brands. So it's more than a platform, it's really like an ecosystem. And then the real $1 million question is, can you design an ecosystem? Maybe keep that question in mind, if it's possible or not. We can discuss about it later. What gave us these ecosystems and platforms is, the first is, it's all about user experience. So what you see here is the Alessi version of a toilet brush. Yes, thank you. But you can buy the same one, I think, in Zeeman or Libra for, I don't know, 3 or 4 euros. Or yes, or that one. It's much cheaper, maybe even better. But it's all about user experience. That's one of the big things that gave us these platforms and ecosystem. Another one is, this is one of Rambla's early customers. So you all know Spotify, but we have in Belgium also Tunify. And Tunify delivers audio streaming to Horeca, to bars, etc. What they want access instead of ownership. So without this trend, we would not have had platforms or ecosystems. So it's more about access instead of ownership. Another thing is that the computing, this we all know, Moore's law, computing costs, they became always lower and lower and lower, or more powerful, more powerful, more powerful. So things have changed a lot. And then what you get here is, that's really interesting, we see, let's call it a debundled utility offering. You can have SendGrid, where you can indeed send stuff as a service. You can have programmable voice, SMS as a service, payment as a service, and even print as a service. But it's all debundled. I'll come back to that later, why it's so important, but it's debundled. So these are the things that brought us to these platforms. What are the drivers of platforms? If you have one, what makes it successful? So first one is network effects. In 2007, I was a member of LinkedIn. I was one of the early adopters, I think. But it was not very valuable in those days, because I was one of the only ones there. So I was on LinkedIn and not much happened. But if you look at it now, it's huge. You have network effects. Next thing is network effects. are these days amplified with learning effects. You all know or might know that this is my Spotify thing. They recommend stuff only for you. And even your Netflix interface, it generates interfaces, so images, automatically. It's not a UX guy, it's not a designer, no design, it's artificial intelligence based on your user behavior that they offer. So you cannot do this if you don't have the volume, the network effects. And if you have the network effects, you can indeed learn. You can amplify the learning effects. Why am I referring to all this? Because these, if you don't take all these into account, you will never be able, not never. It will be hard to create an ecosystem or a platform, really hard. You can create maybe a product, but that's not the same as an ecosystem or a platform. Next one is that you can go across industries. So what you see here is LinkedIn, and we saw really a booming during COVID. They start offering lots and lots of training, education. That was not their core business. But because of the network, because of the learning effects, they can diversify and go into other industries as well. You see the same happening with lots of platforms. Airbnb did the same. Colruyt is also doing the same. Banks are doing the same. You can, wonder if it's useful or not. For example, KBC has a brilliant environment, but if they offer like Jupiler League goals, I'm not waiting for it. I don't see the value. But the thing that they can do it is valuable. It comes back on shippable. They just because they learn from it. I hope that I don't like it, but other people do. So across industries, this one is really important. Is that you don't focus on scope, but you focus on scale. It has to be really big, huge volumes, so scale. What you see here, Amazon and Whole Foods, whereas Whole Foods, you don't see it very well. They're Whole Paws, so these are all products from Whole Foods. Amazon bought at a certain moment Whole Foods, so this is where you get really like huge scale. So, what were the reasons for actions for Symeta Hybrid? First one is, mine is over there, but the future is conversational. We move from paper, which is transactional, into like this, your smartphone that's always in your pocket, that's conversational. So it's digital first and conversational first. Even for invoices. For everything. We go more and more into that mode. If you look at now, the difficulties we have now, we get bombarded by, I think, past months, the invoice troubles that people will have or are facing with energy bills. If you can go into a more like a conversational mode, things can get completely different. They cannot, and for the moment. You see, it's purely transactional how they tackle it. So, and that's why we still have these difficulties. But if you go into a conversational mode, make it vivid, you can indeed, huge bills, split it up. You can make proposals based on segments. You can do a lot of stuff in a conversational mode that are completely different. It's also automated, but it feels like a conversation. And it's geared towards your needs and not exactly the needs of everyone. But that's not where we came from, so this is where we want to go. This is the Netherlands. The overschrijdingsformulier stops existing. And on the right you see immediately the difficulty. We see the same in Belgium. Like, I hope you all are familiar with it, like 4 out of 10 Belgians is at risk for digital exclusion. 4 out of 10. And always mistrust your own environment. Don't take your living room for a boardroom. If you make decisions based on your peers, most definitely you will be wrong. Because your peers is not the market, your peers is not valid enough. So what we see here is 4 out of 10 is losing track. So paper still will play an important role there. So another reason for action you're all very familiar with is like changing user behavior. And then the other one is changing technology landscape. Yeah, after all of these items, you can give you like a long talk. We will not go dive into details. I think you are all familiar with it. You can go over networking, can go over scaling, can go into expand your network, can go to ease integration, it can go into monetize, it can go in all the different drivers that we know about APIs.
You have a good blog on that, by the way.
Yeah. So that's another reason for action. What we also see is that's the Scheerder cycle. You always have a cliff point and you have a tipping point, but you don't know where and you don't know when, but it will be there. What we see, for example, is that the paper our revenue model is based on prices per thousand invoice slips that we send. This price is in decline. And we see it going down every year 10 to 15%. So within this and 5 years, maybe 20% of the volume will be paper. It will still be there, but 20%. But the whole revenue model is based on it. And IT and digital services were just, it's a bonus. Given away almost for free. There is no revenue model behind it. So basically that was my challenge. Okay, switch this one. Okay, this is happening as we speak. We see it and feel it. The funny thing is, though, that we will see first a rise again. Why? Because last man standing, there is not much big players like us on the market anymore. So the very big volumes, that they come now on the market, so it will go, and then it will drop again. So basically you have like bpost and Speos, which is a very big supplier of services in print, and us, and then more small players. So the tipping point, this is where we are, we hope. We're here, we're not yet there. So you're really witnessing the birth of our new services. What do we do? So basically, this is what you will find on our website. The typical mission, vision statement. Okay. I'll guide you through this sentence. It's like, this is our positioning. We see ourselves as a channel orchestrator. So we indeed want to orchestrate all these different channels that I mentioned before. It can also be WhatsApp. It could be like even, I don't know, TikTok. I don't know. For the really large players, the top 500 companies, so it can be hospitals, can be government, can be banks, can be insurance, utility companies, that deploy channels and touch points. And this is interesting, and corresponding functionality, because these touch points nowadays, they offer functionality. You can pay with it, you can update your data, you can answer something, you can do something. It's functional. It's not only a channel, you have a hybrid mix of a channel and a functionality. Always, and this is new, and this is also a stretch, in function of business targets on specific business processes. So if you read it backwards, we start with the business process. The business process is, for example, invoice to cash. The invoice to cash process, that's basically where we start from. And then you have like business targets on these, and the business targets are mainly very simple and easy most of the time. For invoice to cash, I want to cash early, so it's control your aging balance. I will lower my cost to serve per lower the cost to serve per channel and per contact. And the third one is with a controlled user experience, with a controlled churn. Basically always the same. You can have the same for onboard new customer or for direct marketing processes. Why is this new for us? Because we never focus on the goals. We always focused on the means. So that's also a stretch. I'm almost through, I think. True. Yes. So I hope if you have questions, and I think you will have them, I just wanted to create a sense of urgency. This is what I did with my board of directors, who know everything about paper, everything about processes, everything about ISO norms and all this stuff, but who don't know much about, let alone API economy or digital revenue generation or anything. They're like clueless. So I went through this, let's call it a bumpy ride, because the moment you think, they got it, you're back. So it's like, forward, get home. That, in the end, you will go forward, but it's a cumbersome process. But it's normal, because of the paradigm shift and the mental model that's changing. But, Matthias.
Yep, thank you. So that's a lot of, let's say, vision. There's a reason why Symeta Hybrid wants to change up things, wants to evolve, wants to go towards this conversational future. Now, of course, there's something that needs to be built as well. You need to create, let's say, an IT landscape that is able to support that vision, to realize that vision, to turn it into a reality. And so, how do you actually start building that? And I think Symeta Hybrid needed a good rethink about how they were working and how they want to work. Now, you always mentioned it, conversational future. It's also in the title of the talk today. Let's first start with defining what a conversation is, because in the context of real life, conversation is an easy concept to grasp. And you can probably have an idea about what it means from an IT point of view, but there are some different. There are a lot of similarities, there are also some differences, but let's get this explained first, because then we need this to be able to explain how we're going to implement them. So, first of all, like in real life, a conversation starts at some point, it ends at some point, and there's some time that goes on in the meeting. That's pretty similar. What is maybe a bit dissimilar, a bit different, is that a conversation, as we know it, has a specific ID. Because we see a conversation as being a unique thing that we need to be able to refer to, we need to put things in there, we need to interact with it, we need to know its state, so we attribute a unique idea to that. But what is similar again, it's one-to-one. No, it's not actually that similar, because here it is one-to-one. It is one customer, one consumer, maybe one company, so one-to-one. And as like in real life, conversation is a series of one or more actions. It can be sending an SMS, like you has already said. It can be sending an email, a WhatsApp message, a paper letter. It can be all sorts of things. Might even be TikTok or Snapchat or something like that. So different things that constitute the conversation. And these actions, they happen at some point in time. They can be scheduled, they can be automatically triggered by events, they can be triggered by conditions that become true, for example. So this is something where IT conversations start to differ quite a bit from real life, because in real life we're not actually going to set a timer and then do something or talk to someone. Here we are going to have this orchestration. We need this orchestration logic that says, for example, okay, when this condition is true, then I need to do something. When I haven't received a payment, after 2 weeks after sending a payment letter, that maybe I want to send out an SMS with an easy payment link to say, hey, we've seen you haven't paid yet. Here is a link. If you click it, then in 2 minutes your bill is paid. So maybe you want to do that kind of logic into an orchestration. So real life, you don't really have these orchestrated. Okay, maybe they exist, but usually conversations when we go to eat something in half an hour and we talk to each other, we're not going to have this kind of orchestrated logic in our head saying, okay, I need to ask this and that. Often that's not the case. In this case, we do want it to be like that. And that's also why we need this conversation, the state of the conversation, to be stored, to be managed at all times, because we need to know where we are in the conversation with a certain customer or consumer. We need to know when we need to do something. We need to know what we need to do at some point. So we need to be able to grab the conversation, see what its state is, and act upon it. So these actions, to dive a little bit deeper, these actions, they come with a connector. The connector is basically what allows the conversation to, let's say, call this kind of action. And these connectors, you can make them, obviously, you need to make them a bit smart. You need to give them some input and some output. When you're going to send an SMS to a consumer, you're not going to just take the same message each and every time and send that as is. Now you need some parameters, you need to maybe personalize it, add the name into the SMS, add a specific payment link into it. We're always talking about payments.
Yeah, but because we mainly focused on payments, because we focus on like certain domains and they come with a certain logic and requirements. But in everything that we modeled, we try to get it, and that's interesting, get it as conceptual as possible. And I think Johan is here. Johan is one of the architects working on it together also with Matthias, so it's a group effort, always. I don't think you can do anything in our field without the help of experts. What we very often have discussed about is the level of conceptual and abstract level to get it valid enough, to not go too soon into the technical detail. Because that way, remember that we also have to take the whole company with us, because we will introduce new concepts. If I say, for example, like here, in the other slides, it's stored at any time. Yeah, it's completely new. Before, if you send out paper print, the only thing we have is, it's sent, check. Or we know that it's on the right address and everything, but then we don't know anything. So it's the way how the database is and how we capture data is completely different. It is completely different. So if you go from a transactional logic, you go to batch logic, and you go to different technologies. If you talk to technology people on this technology level, you cannot go up again, up in the conceptual ladder, in the why, you will lose them. So that's why we put a lot of effort in conceptualizing and modeling and taking everything. It's more like a learning curve and a learning project than that's why it goes slow. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, so back to the connectors. So yeah, when we send an SMS, that's basically what it comes down to. We want this to be a reusable block that we parameterize who to send it to, what message to send it to, what's his name, what's the extra data we need to add, and then we can have this action executed. And then it's also going to return some feedback. And SMS is going to return a send report, not a delivery report, I think, because delivery isn't guaranteed, but a send report. We might have a stamp from the post office or something when a letter is sent, or things like that.
The post is also digitizing, so they offer also APIs, so luckily.
So it can look something like that. We send an SMS to a certain number, we include the name, we include who's it from, and we get a send report on that. So linking it back a little bit, this SMS all fits into a process, the process that's actually the conversation itself. We can watch the results in some kind of dashboards to see, okay, this conversation with this customer, what has happened, but then also for this customer, which conversations have we had maybe. And of course, and that's also one important word here, API. How are we going to execute those actions, or how are we going to address them? That's going to be APIs. So we're moving a bit towards these building blocks, these actions that can be reusable, that can be reconfigured into these conversations, and that's what we really want to do. We want to be able, you talked about different processes in different departments, we want to be able to give them the proper conversations to follow up on their customers within their specific processes. So that's a very important thing.
So basically what we see as a big challenge also when we did the kickoff, we had like people from different disciplines. And so we have, that's why I draw this one. And it's linked also on the prior schemes, is like TP means touch point, by the way. So you get an SMS, an email, whatever. This is a typical customer journey. And people who are responsible for customer journeys are service designers, user experience guys. They have a field of expertise and also methodology they use. Behind all these things are processes and procedures. People are doing something, or it's automated, and they get information from systems. What we see typically, this is what you could call like a service blueprint, where you have the interaction layer and you have the system layer. And typically you see like architects, they tackle this one, and then the crazy service designers, UX guys, they tackle this one, and they don't understand each other, and they get into lost in translation and whatever. What we try to do is not do this, but start from the customer point of view. So really like what do they want? And not from a purely only systemic or architectural view. And while we were doing this, did you see this also, like Johan is in this field, Erik is more into this field, this is someone else from the team, and we have nice conversations and nice discussions. And you need both, of course. That's one of the big challenges, I think. Yeah. Sorry.
No. Let's go towards the building blocks. I want to show you something. All right. So, probably a bit unexpected this. Why are we putting a Playmobil Volkswagen T1 toy here?
Okay, it's a T1.
Yeah, it's a T1. I'm not being paid by Volkswagen, by the way. No, this is a Playmobil Volkswagen van. It's a very nice toy. My children also have some Playmobil. They don't play with it anymore because they're too old now. But very good toys. Very nice. The thing is, when you buy this, you have a very good Volkswagen T1 toy.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good at being a Volkswagen T1. The thing is, it will always be a Volkswagen van. It will never be something different, which is not a problem in itself, except if you want it to be something different, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Enter the Lego model, because Lego, they also have a Volkswagen T1 van. And how do you get that? You don't, when you open this box, okay, you might have some parts, but basically you're going to get almost an entire car out of the box. The Lego, you're going to have a lot of little blocks, a lot of small blocks. And those blocks, neither of them is a Volkswagen van. They are just blocks. They are not really anything. They can become a van together if you follow the building plan for the Volkswagen V1 van that is in this box. So if you follow that plan, all of those blocks, yeah, are going to form the car. Thing is, if you follow other building plans, there are a lot of Lego plans. If you follow other plans and you combine them with other blocks, then you're going to build a plane, or you're going to build a boat, or a house, or whatever you want it to be. Depends on the context. Maybe you're in the mood to build a police station, for example, with police vehicles. Can be, if that's your context, then you follow the building plan, or you do something out of your own mind, probably, and you're going to get something different. So these blocks, the Lego blocks, in itself, they are nothing, but depending on the context, the building plan you follow, you're going to create whatever you want with it. And that, I think, brings us to the mindset of creating these blocks, these reusable blocks, these configurable blocks, that will enable you to build whatever you want within the context that you want it to be. Now, in order to build those blocks, those reusable blocks, we have established some architectural principles that are first and foremost being followed in order to arrive at that goal of having these reusable blocks. The first one is, we'll go over them briefly, is the cloud first principle. There's a few advantages to that. Basically, Symeta Hybrid wants to grow. The number of customers now is at some point that needs to be, you talked about scale. You want to be able to scale up with the customers you're getting. But also the demand from those customers isn't always going to be a flat line. It's going to fluctuate. It's going to rise, it's going to lower, it's going to hopefully more rise than lower, but you want to be able to scale with the volumes that are being demanded. And that's something that the cloud is easier for. That's what it's there. It also enables you to change your expenses to operational expense and things like that, pay as you use. That we know that. So it has those advantages. Of course, you need to build up some how do you say, expertise. Yeah. Maybe a cloud center of excellence or something of that kind, but you will need to retrain people because when you are in an on-premise mindset and you want to go to a cloud mindset, then other paradigms are going to apply. So you need some expertise on that. Mm-hmm. The second one is market-driven.
Yeah, market-driven, that's not what we are now. We're customer-driven. So we make Playmobil cars. We have many Playmobil cars. So you want to refer to it as a big ball of mud. So we have in all colors, sizes, shapes. So basically we use APIs as a way of point-to-point integration, but not as really in a service-oriented architecture. So market-driven means that we focus on invoice to cash all the time, like the financial process. We want to crack the domain. That's what we want to do, and it's more market-driven. And basically, in invoice to cash for a hospital or for a utility company, the basic building blocks are the same, but different regulations, of course. But that's something you always can have. So that's market-driven. It's completely new for us. So cloud first, by the way, also it's new. So yeah.
Data. I think it's nothing new that data is very important. So with these conversations, this conversational platform, this will allow Symeta Hybrid to learn about the behavior of its consumers, and also the customers of their customers, let's say. So that's pulling in a lot of data, a lot of behavioral data, from which you can learn. You also talked about network effects, about learning effects. If you combine those, then basically this will mean if you handle your data properly, if you learn from that, you're going to be able to provide a better service towards your existing customers. You're going to be able to attract new customers with the premise of having a lot of learnings from behavioral data. But then also you're going to enable your customers to provide better services to, let's say, the end customers, which is again something that reinforces basically this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Configuration over development. We talked about not wanting a Playmobil van. Nice as it might be, we don't want a Playmobil van. We want building blocks that can be generic, let's say, that can be put in all the contexts you need, and that you can configure basically. You're not coding them specifically for each context, because everything that you code in a very specific way, you need to manage them, you need to maintain them, you need to evolve them all individually, so that takes a huge effort, that takes a lot more work. So you want them to be more generic and more configurable, so that you can evolve them as one product. The added bonus is that you maybe need less technical people, less very technical experts, because you can configure it more depending on the context that you're in. The last one is shippable products.
Yeah, shippable products is also new. Like I think we put it here. Yeah. So the typical innovation funnel, in reality it never happens like this. So in reality it's much more messy, it goes back and forth and it's bumpy. But basically what you see is you study something, you make a proof of concept, you make a proof of technology, you pilot something and you make it into a product. So that's the theory. In reality it's different. So basically what we want to do is here, so this is the phase, this we have all passed. We did some study work, management says yes, we all agree. We did some proof of concepts, yes, we all agree, and also proof of technology. Technology works, we'll show you. But then pilots. Pilots is like shippable products, like new stuff we will release. This is completely new for them. And I already referred to the reason why. So there is a zero tolerance for mistakes or failure or whatever. It's like a 100% reliable demands that they have. And it's really in the mindset of everyone. So it's really difficult to establish it. But we have to. Because otherwise you don't ship anything, you don't learn anything, and you make something, and how on earth will we make any progress then? So this is one of the tough battles, the shippable problems. Yeah. Data as an asset, by the way, also. Because it's hard to express the value. It's hard to come up with, there are not many companies out there who really make profit, and there are. But some of them are really like Google, with their AdWords, even for them it's getting more and more difficult. So everyone is talking about it, but it's really difficult. Yes?
Okay. So if we are able to apply all of those successfully, then naturally we will come to, let's say, the core principle to have APIs that are products. And that's really the most important thing here. APIs as a product, that means you have APIs that live in the cloud, APIs that are created because there's the market asks for it, your customers ask for it, instead of you thinking that they might need it. Yeah? the market has asked for it, you deliver them. That pull in data from which you can learn and reinforce your service. APIs that you can configure so that they can apply in the contexts, in the conversations that you need. And they can be ready, shipped, supported, have a known life cycle. That's what we need. We haven't talked about the really technical part yet. We are not going to dive very deep into this, but how are we building this? We're building this on the Microsoft Azure platform. We'll briefly go over it left to right. So on the, let's say, we have APIs that are the entry points into the landscape to interact with everything that's behind. We have a conversation API, notification API, conversation history API. And then behind that we have, let's say, the more high-level architecture. We use for the conversations, and we have said that we want these conversations to be stored, that they are unique, but that we need to be able to retrieve them at all times to interact with them. We save those states in the Cosmos DB. We have services that contain logic about scheduling, about the conversations themselves, about the notifications. They're also going to be providing events. That's where we are using the event grid. And those events, they can and will trigger connectors that you find on the right-hand side. The logic of those connectors is implemented in logic apps. And then to make the story complete, this is how we're going to be able to give the finance department a car, to give the marketing department a boat, to give the HR department a plane, which is conversations targeted at them.
These are like the building blocks, like the Lego blocks that we use, by which we make stuff. And a lot of these Lego blocks will also not be in our control. We will not become a payment solution provider. So we connect with a service provider who does it. It will not be us. So basically here you will see, like, hopefully in the future, myriad of all kinds of services that we connect with. So, but some of them we do want to have control, and that's maybe also interesting if you want to have like an ecosystem, is where do you put your control point? And this is where a lot of tension exists, and it's been big, but I don't like it. For example, what you see happen, you all know POM. So it's a QR code you can scan. In 5 years ago or 10 years ago when they started, they decided that they also wanted to have a channel. So they offer functionality and they offer a channel. What will happen, if you know how expensive it is to create a channel, you need a budget times 1,000, from what most startups have in Belgium. So it's really, really expensive. The only 2 channels that we know of that really succeeded, you all use it, I think it's me and it's Dom, because they push a lot of money to it. But if you get this mix of having a piece of technology or a piece of functionality and a channel, then you get into a potential conflict of interest for us. If you really want to be the channel orchestrator, but you also offer your own channels and you push your own channels, for example, the Dockle, what are you? Are you a competitor or not? So ecosystems and strategic positions and ecosystems is really difficult. It's not easy because it's moving all the time. So POM also decided to kill their channel because it's of no use. Digital, another company, exactly the same. So a lot of them, they have difficulties in creating a channel. And that's why we think, like, yeah, you have to stick to your guns. Like, for example, one of our suppliers here is, for SMS, is Spring. Spring positions itself as a purely technical solution provider. For us, that's good. If they would also offer, like, no, we have our own channel and we have our own stuff, then it would be difficult. Yes, sorry.
So yeah, and on the right-hand side, we have the connectors, they connect or allow Symeta Hybrid to connect
Yeah.
to the customer. And that's also no problem.
Uh,
What's next? You want to
Yes.
intro this next slide?
Yeah, you can push it. This is the moment you all can zone out. So the end is near of this thing, so we can have a beer. I think the metaphor is clear. I hope it's an ecosystem. It's a jungle. It's a rainforest. I raised the question at the beginning of the talk: can you design an ecosystem? I think you cannot. It's emergent strategies. And so what we put in place is, we put in place some architectural principles. We put in place. You add some knowledge that was not there before, like the user experience, service design, but also architectural approach, more like domain-driven and more like market-driven. That's also new. You add to the mix. Then you install like different way of working in different teams, and then see what happens. And there's not more that you can do. All consultants try to, like McKinsey or Gartner or whatever, they try to sell you the idea of, if you do this, follow this recipe, you will get an ecosystem. But it's not working that way. So it's really like, it's more like the software gardening metaphor as well, like a Japanese garden, a Japanese or an English garden. It's not designed, it's like you cut the lawn a little bit, you let it grow. It's like that's more the metaphor that we use, and that's also, I think, matches very much with the culture group way of working. They give lots of freedom. Yeah, I see frowns, but they do give lots of freedom. Really amazing. I've never encountered a company that has such a positive, Mansfield view on people, like they trust you, and at the same time you can try. So it's amazing. So we're lucky also. Why can we do this? Is because we are not in the core business. Because if you are in the core business, then it's different. We're on the side. We're like in Stofhoekske. We're not a little player, but we can rely on all the strategic thinking that they did. So, which is a good position. So that's why. But the ecosystem and the emergent strategy, I think that's the key takeaway. There is no big plan, no master scheme, no whatever. It's get started and have the right people on board and the right principles, of course. The principles are already hard enough to maintain them, to keep to them, to stick to them. We had Q&A, I wrote it there. There was no one asking a question. Maybe now is the moment, or if you're really hungry, but we're ready to answer questions. No one has a question? Really, everybody is like dozing off.
Your architectural principles, the end of everything is that you see the API as a product.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really see each API as a product, or rather sets of APIs that become a product?
Good question. The technical answer would be, let's look at the emergent strategy. But I think that the first thing is to get the granularity right of the services that we offer. I give you an example of the API from bpost. bpost now we can integrate it. They can offer us feedback if laten we recommenderen een aangetekende zending. Guys, come on, help me. Registered letter, registered mail. And so they can give you an API you can call. So for example, I'm the HR director of City of Antwerp, and I write a letter, and it's a recommendation, so registered letter. I need to get feedback. Did it reach? Yeah. So we were talking about the guys, how to implement it, and they were immediately doing the same as that they always did. The value itself of the feedback is 0. We cannot charge it. So if we integrate it, it's worth nothing. It's only when you combine it with sending something and you get something back, then it's valuable. So the value is always created by the context. So the context determines the value. But what happens in the teams, if they get this question, they do typically scope creep. They start like, I just asked, I want the service integrated. And they start like, no, it's not enough. We need more. We need tuk and a portal and tuk. No, stop. Give me the service. The context, we will determine the context, and there will become multiple contexts. So it's a combination of APIs as a product. So these touch points, for example, giving feedback on a registered mail or giving feedback on anything else, it's a touch point, and you can bundle it indeed like into a different product. We have a product, it's called Mail Advice, and it's geared towards like very small physical sendings and emails and everything. So, but you use it in that context. That was basically the metaphor of the carapils that I used before. So the carapils, if you buy a carapils in Colruyt, laagste prijzen, you get the lowest price. Definitely. If you go in Antwerp to an OK Compact, you pay 10% more. Why? Yeah, because it's close by, it's the buurt super, you pay more. It's different, it's the same car, but the context is different. If you go at 10 o'clock to the night shop, you will pay even 20% more. So it's the same car, but it's a different context. The context determines the value of the content, always. So you can have indeed different contexts where the value of what you offer is different. Yeah.
So you can have multiple products existing.
Yeah.
APIs can be part of multiple products.
Yes, exactly.
And how are you going to monetize the products? Do you have a marketplace vision or?
Yes. So I think basically where we start with is we have at this moment certain fields that we're really active in, and we will. Where is it? This one. The typical thing that we use is. Let's see, I'll make it here. Pretty sure most of you are familiar with this one. So you have business viability, user desirability, and technological feasibility. The sweet spot, of course, is in the middle. The first thing, we always start with this one, the user. That's easy. That's new. Most projects up until now are driven by either this or this. It's becoming obsolete, or it's a security risk, or technology, we need to change something. So these are the main drivers at the moment. We want to change to this one. For example, Mail Advice is a current application, so where you can send physical letters. And we aggregate it, and we print it, and we post it, and you send it. The user case is proven. There are more than 1,000 users using the product. But the business case is not proven because in those days they decided to develop it like a standalone thing in PHP, which is not a core technology stack, so a lot of stuff. So the business case is negative. So basically what you have to do is, to make the business technical fit sound again, replace this, rebuild this, refactor it. But this one has been proven. And you very often see that sometimes this one, if this one is bad, there is nothing. It stops. But basically, it's most of the things is like replacing the current stuff that we have and adding layers on top of it. For example, the invoices that we offer at this moment, they are pretty old school, full of clutter, because we didn't look from a user perspective. So it's a new service. is it new IT service? No, it's not a new IT service. But we do it from within the current, it's quality and interactive from the current technology. We stretch the technology to improve this one. So I think it will be lots of little things, from little user stories to big epics and initiatives and everything in between that we will do. So but we don't know where exactly will be the sweet spot of the money. We'll have to see. Yeah.
More questions?
I'll be around. Matthias will be around.
Yes, so
Johan will be around.
there's still beer over there, there's still other drinks, but now also we have some soup, we have wraps, I think we had brownies or something like that.
Cake, and we have also foreseen some pizza because of the amount of people that appeared. We didn't expect such a success, so thank you all for coming over.
Yeah, thank you very
We
much.
have delicious food on the other side.
Yeah, let's all go there, and if you still have questions, then come to us and we can talk. Thank you.